Ever look at a sunset and wonder, like, how does my brain actually experience that? Going from just processing light waves to that incredible explosion of color.
It's a great question.
It's like, how does any of this reality stuff actually work? And that actually kind of leads us right into today's deep dive synergic theory.
Now we're getting to the good stuff. Synergic theory. This is a fascinating theory.
So fascinating.
Yeah.
Tell the people at home, what is it?
Well, it was developed by this brilliant researcher, Dr. Jacobo Grinberg Zylberbaum.
And we are diving deep into his actual book today, Teoria Synergia.
Straight from the source, no filter.
So where do we even start?
Yeah.
This theory tries to explain, literally how we experience reality. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but he starts with a really interesting concept, something called the lattice. So imagine, just picture, there's this structure kind of woven into the fabric of space.
Okay.
And every single point of this structure, this lattice, contains all the information in the entire universe. Every single point.
Hold on. So you're telling me that the information from some distant galaxy is right here, right now?
Precisely.
My mind is already blown and we're 5 minutes in. But how does that even,
Yeah, well, he uses this analogy of the Huichol Indians. They create this amazing textile art. And they have this belief, you see, that every point in their weaving is connected to every other point, creating this one unified piece of art.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
It's all connected, it's like that, but on a universal scale, that's the lattice.
Okay, so the universe is like one massive cosmic tapestry, and every single point is connected. But how does any of that translate into this? I'm touching the microphone, I'm sitting in this chair, It feels pretty real to me.
Right, it does, doesn't it? And that is the really, really amazing part. So imagine the lattice, right?
Yeah.
And you can picture it as this smooth, perfect surface, but then imagine it can ripple. It can have distortions, kind of like if you throw a rock into a pond.
Ripples.
Ripples, exactly. Synergic theory says those distortions, those ripples, that's what we perceive as physical reality.
Whoa. So gravity, light, this microphone, my voice are all just ripples in this thing, the lattice.
Yes. And it gets even more interesting because our brains, through, the whole process of evolution, have become mirrors of the lattice.
Hold on. Okay. Our brains are lattice mirrors.
In a sense, think about your neurons, those little information processors in your brain. Those are like tiny little antennas picking up on the signals from the lattice, translating that information into the reality that we experience.
Wait, so you're saying my brain isn't just receiving information from the outside world, it's actually creating my experience of reality.
Yeah.
Based on how it's interacting with this lattice thing.
That's the core idea here.
Whoa.
It's a synergy. It's this constant back and forth, this dance between your brain and this universal field of information. You're not just passively receiving, you're actively creating.
Okay, I'm going to be honest, that is a lot to process, but I think I'm starting to get it. So how does it actually work, this interaction? Give me the specifics.
Okay, well, to understand that, we need to talk about the neuronal field.
Yeah.
Okay, so picture this. It's like this energy field generated by all the activity happening inside your brain, right? Every thought, every feeling, every sensation, it all contributes to this neuronal field.
Okay, so the neuronal field, that's like my brain's own personal energy signature, basically.
Yes, and it's constantly changing.
Right. Always moving, just like our thoughts. Makes sense.
And just like the lattice has different levels of organization, so does this neuronal field.
Oh, interesting. So there's layers to this thing.
Exactly. And these layers, we call them synergetic bands. You can almost think of them as different frequencies that your brain operates on.
Different frequencies, like a radio, tuning into different stations.
Precisely. And those different bands in your brain, they interact with the corresponding bands in the lattice. That's how we see, we hear, we taste, all of it.
Whoa. So it's like this mind-blowingly complex dance between my own personal neuronal field and this universal lattice. And that's what creates my reality.
Exactly. You're getting it. It's all connected.
That is incredible.
And this is just the beginning. We haven't even touched upon how consciousness fits into all of this.
Okay, so we've got our brains doing this crazy dance with the lattice, creating our own personal realities. But where does consciousness fit into all of this? That feeling of me experiencing it all.
Right. Well, synergic theory, it proposes this radical idea, and that is that consciousness isn't something limited to just us, to humans.
Okay.
It suggests that consciousness is actually a fundamental property of the lattice itself.
Hold on. Are you saying that, a rock has consciousness?
In a way, yeah. See, think of it like a spectrum. There are different levels of consciousness. Grinberg Zylberbaum, he calls these orbitals of consciousness. So that rock, it might have a very, very simple structure.
Kind of basic.
Basic, and so it would have a very low level of consciousness interacting only with a very limited part of the lattice, you see.
Okay, so a rock's like neuronal field, if you can even call it that, is super basic, only tapping into a tiny part of the lattice. But humans, we've got these crazy complex brains, right? Billions of neurons firing all the time. We're interacting with a much bigger chunk of the lattice.
Precisely. Our brains are like finely tuned instruments. They can pick up a way broader range of frequencies from the lattice, and that's what gives us this rich, inner world, thoughts, emotions, all of that.
So this is what I'm really curious about. If consciousness exists on a spectrum, like you said, can we move up? Can we experience, I don't know, even more of reality? Like, is that even possible?
That's one of the most exciting things about synergic theory. It suggests that these orbitals of consciousness, they're not fixed.
We can actually, like, level up our awareness.
Yes, and potentially experience a whole new reality, in a way.
Okay, this is what I'm talking about. Sign me up. So how do we do it? How do we become, like, more synergic? How do we tap into these higher levels?
Well, Grinberg Zylberbaum, he points to a number of different practices that can refine our, this is a mouthful, Neuro Algorithmization.
Neuro what now?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But think of it as, like, your brain has an operating system, right? Like a computer. Neuro Algorithmization is basically like giving that operating system an upgrade. And that lets you experience reality in a much deeper way, much more expansive.
Okay, I like that. Like, I'm upgrading my brain. So what kind of practices are we talking about?
Well, meditation is a big one. When you meditate, you're training your mind to be calmer, more focused. And synergic theory, it suggests that when you do that, your neuronal field, it becomes more coherent. And that allows it to interact with, like, subtler levels of the lattice.
So it's like I'm fine-tuning my brain's antenna to get a clearer signal from, like, the universe itself.
Exactly. It's not just meditation, though. Mindfulness, really looking at yourself, your thoughts, even being creative. These can all help us refine our neuro algorithmization.
So we're not just watching the movie of our lives, we're actually directing it. Whoa, that's a lot of responsibility.
It is, and there's actually another layer to this. It's not just our individual neuronal fields. Grinberg Zylberbaum suggests they're all interconnected, forming something called the hyperfield.
Okay, the hyperfield. You're blowing my mind here. What is that?
Imagine billions of human brains, right? Each one with its own neuronal field, all interacting not only with the lattice, but with each other too. That's the hyperfield, this massive interconnected web of consciousness, and it's always evolving.
So what you're saying is that my thoughts, my actions, everything I do, it's all contributing to this hyperfield.
It is, and it could be influencing other people's consciousness too.
Wow. Okay, I need a minute to process this.
It's a lot.
So if this hyperfield is always evolving, are we, like, as a species, are we moving towards some kind of shared consciousness?
Yeah.
You could, like, telepathy, could that be real?
That's a big question and an exciting one. Synergic theory, it doesn't necessarily have all the answers, but it gives us a way to think about it, a way to understand how everything might be connected. But there's actually one more really wild aspect to all of this.
Okay, let me see if I've got this straight. We've got this lattice, this, like, blueprint of reality, and then our brains with their own neuronal fields, and we're all kind of plugged into this massive hyperfield. Anything else I missed?
You're doing great, but there's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's a big one. Remember how we were saying that our brains are creating our realities, right? In synergy with the lattice.
Yeah, like our brains are choosing a specific reality to experience out of all the possibilities in the lattice. It's wild.
Exactly. And because it's this constant interaction, this dance between your neuronal field and the lattice, well, your reality, it's actually way more flexible than you might think.
Wait, are you saying that we can actually, like, change our reality just by changing our minds?
That's the potential that synergic theory hints at. It's not just about passively experiencing whatever reality we're tuned into, It's about recognizing that we have influence, that we can actually impact our neuronal field, and by doing that, shape the reality we're experiencing.
Whoa. So we're not just watching the movie, we're, like, writing a script as we go. That's a lot of power.
It is a lot of power, but the question is, how much control do we actually have? And that's something that, well, synergic theory doesn't necessarily have a concrete answer for.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a pretty big question.
It is, but even without all the answers, even with all these big questions, synergic theory, it gives us a really incredible framework to understand just how powerful our minds are and how connected everything really is.
It's definitely been a mind-blowing deep dive. So for our listeners who are probably just as blown away as I am right now, what's like the one thing you want them to take away from all of this?
This is the big one. You are not just along for the ride in your own life. You have the power right here, right now, to shape your own reality. Understand your mind, really dive deep into how it works, expand your consciousness, and make conscious choices about how you show up in the world, how you interact with it. That's where the real magic happens.
Amazing. It's like that saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Exactly. Keep asking the big questions, keep exploring, and never, ever stop being curious. The more we learn about the nature of reality, the more incredible it becomes.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive into synergic theory. But hey, the conversation doesn't have to end here. Keep those amazing thoughts coming, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the mysteries of the universe and ourselves.